The days after the trial of worthiness were uneasy. The palace of crystal and gold felt brighter to some, yet darker to others. Princess Lyra followed Daniel like a shadow, her smile brighter than ever, telling everyone, "See, I told you. My mother chose the right one." But in the council chambers, whispers grew like poison vines. Not all nobles accepted the outcome. Some bowed, some stayed silent, and some sharpened their daggers in the dark. The Empress knew it. Daniel knew it too, and beyond the borders of the Empire, the warlords stirred. The humans' victories spread like fire. Whole systems whispered his name. The man who saved the Empress. The man who defied the trials. The man who might become father of the galaxy. The warlords would not let such a man rise without a fight. One night Daniel stood on the balcony once more, looking out over the endless stars. His thoughts were heavy. Celira joined him, her robe trailing behind her. "You are troubled," Daniel nodded. "Your people don't fully trust me. The nobles see me as an intruder. And out there," he gestured at the stars, "the warlords gather. They will strike soon, and when they do, your throne will shake." Celira's eyes were steady, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "You have faced every trial. You have shown more courage than I expected. But the final trial, Daniel, is not for you alone. It is for all of us." At that moment, little Lyra ran to them, her eyes wide. "Mother, Ambassador Daniel, I heard the guards talking. The warlords are coming. They want to take our world." Her small voice trembled, but Daniel knelt before her, resting a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Then we will stand together, Lyra, no matter what comes." Lyra nodded bravely, though her lip quivered. The warning proved true. Within days, fleets of iron and fire appeared at the edge of the system. Thousands of ships, banners of rival houses flying proudly. The warlords had united, bound by one cause, to crush the outsider and seize the throne. The palace shook as alarms blared. Celira commanded her admirals, sending fleets to defend the capital. Yet even she looked uneasy. The enemy's strength was overwhelming. The council of nobles panicked. Some demanded surrender. Others demanded Celira cast Daniel aside as an offering. Daniel stood before them, his voice calm but firm. "If you believe surrender will save you, you are already defeated. And if you believe casting me aside will win mercy, you do not know the heart of conquerors. They will not stop until all of you are ashes." The nobles shouted in anger, but Celira silenced them. "Enough, the human is right. We will not surrender. We will not betray." Her eyes turned to Daniel. "But tell me, what would you have us do?" Daniel looked around the chamber at the fearful faces. Then he said, "You speak of ruling by fear, but fear has brought you nothing but war. If you want to survive, you must fight not as rivals, but as one people. Let me show you how humanity fights, not with pride, but with unity." The nobles fell silent, and so a strange thing happened. For the first time in centuries, the houses of the Empire began to work together. Not for power, not for glory, but for survival. The day of battle came. From the capital's skies, the Empress's fleet rose like a storm. Warships of every house joined, some reluctantly, some with fierce loyalty. At their head, Daniel stood aboard the command vessel beside Celira and Lyra. The warlord's fleet descended like thunder. Their voices echoed across the comms, mocking the human. "You are no emperor. You are no ruler. You are prey." Daniel's reply was steady. "I am no emperor. I am no conqueror. I am only a man. But today I fight for every child who deserves a future. I fight for every mother who deserves peace. And I fight for every world that has suffered under your chains." His words spread across the fleet, and hearts that once wavered grew firm. The battle began. Flames filled the void. Ships clashed. Energy beams cut across the stars. And the thunder of war shook the heavens. Daniel was no warrior of steel, yet his mind worked with calm precision. He guided ships into formations, used traps and ambushes, and turned weakness into strength. He did not order reckless charges. He protected. He endured. The warlords were fierce, their power overwhelming. But the Empire fought with something new, something they had not known for centuries. They fought with unity. Lyra watched with wide eyes, clinging to her mother's side. "He's winning, Mother." "He's really winning." Celira's heart swelled with pride, for in Daniel she saw not just a partner but a leader unlike any she had ever known. At the height of battle, the warlords themselves appeared on the field, their massive flagship bristling with weapons. They broadcast their challenge. "Let the human face us directly. If he survives, we retreat. If he falls, his people die with him. Gasps filled the command chamber. To face the warlords was to face certain death. Lyra turned to Daniel, her voice trembling. You do not have to do this, but Daniel shook his head. If I do not, they will never stop. They must see what humanity means. Lyra's small hand grabbed his. Please come back. I still need a father. Daniel's throat tightened, but he smiled gently. I promise, Lyra, I'll come back. The duel was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Daniel boarded the warlord's flagship, unarmed except for a staff. The three warlords towered over him, armored, glowing with power. They laughed at him, but Daniel did not fight with rage. He fought with patience, with cunning, with resolve. He turned their strength against them, dodging, disarming, never striking to kill. Blow by blow he endured, his body bruised, his breath ragged. At last he brought the three warlords to their knees. Not with death, not with pride, but with mercy. I do not kill you, Daniel said, his voice echoing through the ship, because I am not here to rule with fear. I am here to build a future. The warlords, humiliated yet alive, withdrew. Their fleet scattered. The battle was won. When Daniel returned, the capital erupted in cheers. Nobles bowed, soldiers saluted, and children sang his name. But Daniel cared only for the small figure who ran into his arms. Father, Lyra cried, hugging him tightly. You came back! Daniel laughed softly, lifting her into the air. I promised I would. Lyra approached, her eyes shining with pride. In the hall of crystal light before nobles and people, she spoke the words the galaxy would never forget. From this day forward, Daniel Cross is not only consort of the Empress, but father of the galaxy. Together we will rule not by fear but by hope, and together we will build a future where every child has a place. The nobles bowed, the people cheered, and Lyra, with her bright smile, whispered the words she had waited for all her life. At last, I have a father. Years later, legends would tell of that day. They would tell of how a single human with no crown, no army, and no power but his heart changed the course of a galaxy. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the richest, but because he was human, and because one little girl had asked him to be a father. The great halls of the Galactic Council were filled with cold light. Towering pillars of silver rose high into the air, and the voices of dozens of alien delegates echoed through the chamber. They called it a place of unity, but for those who listened closely, it was only a place of power. The Valoran delegation stood near the center. They were a gentle people, their skin soft and pale, their eyes wide with color that shifted like waves on water. Known across the stars for their art, music, and kindness, the Valorans had never raised weapons against another race. They believed peace was strength. They believed the Council would protect them, but that belief was shattered. On this day, the High Speaker of the Council announced a decision that silenced the chamber. His voice was calm, almost mechanical, as he read from the declaration. The Valoran species has failed to adapt to the future. Their worlds are inefficient. Their culture holds no value to progress. The Council has voted. Their colonies are to be cleared for proper use. The words fell like heavy stones. The Valoran delegation cried out, pleading with trembling voices. You promised us protection. You promised safety under your law. But their pleas were drowned by the murmurs of the other delegates. Some looked away, unwilling to meet the Valoran gaze. Others spoke in cold tones, reminding all that the Council's word was final. From the back of the chamber, a single human delegate rose. Ambassador Alara Quinn, representing Earth, had listened in silence until now. Her voice cut through the noise. This is not justice, she said firmly. This is betrayal. The Valorans trusted you. They trusted all of us. And now you choose to erase them? The High Speaker turned his narrow gaze upon her. His many eyes blinked slowly. Earth is still young. Your people have not yet learned the weight of galactic governance. Do not question the Council. But Alara did not sit down. She stood taller. Then let the record show that Earth will not accept this crime. If the Council abandons its duty, then history will remember who stayed silent and who spoke the truth. Her words echoed for a moment, but in the end, they were only words. The session ended. The council guards escorted the Valoran delegation away. Their faces were pale with fear, their steps unsteady. Outside, fleets of council warships were already preparing for deployment. The order had been given. The purge was beginning. Far away on the Valoran homeworld of Saralith, the skies darkened. The people gathered in the plazas, watching as shadows fell from orbit. Council ships blotted out the light of the stars. They descended with engines glowing like fire. The Valorans had no armies. They had no fleets to resist. Their defenses were nothing more than old satellites and outdated shuttles. To them, war had always been something distant, something other species fought while they built gardens and sang songs. But the Council did not care for gardens or songs. The first bombardments shook the mountains. Cities crumbled. Families ran into the forests, clutching children and elders, but the skies followed them. Within hours, the jewel of Saralith, the capital city carved in crystal, was nothing more than dust. Across the galaxy, reports spread quickly. Colonies destroyed, millions displaced. The Valoran race, once admired for their beauty and kindness, erased as if they had never been. The galaxy turned its gaze away. Few protested. Most whispered in private chambers, afraid of drawing the Council's anger upon themselves. To resist was to invite destruction. Better to stay silent. But not everyone stayed silent. On Earth, the news reached the great cities within days. Screens across continents showed images of burning Valoran towers, children clinging to their parents, and the hollow eyes of survivors as they fled into the void. Humanity, still new to the interstellar stage, watched in shock. For many, it brought back memories of Earth's own history. The wars, the betrayals, the times when stronger nations had crushed weaker ones for power. But unlike the Council, humanity remembered what it meant to be powerless. They remembered the cost of silence. In the city of Geneva, where the United Terran Assembly met, leaders gathered in urgent session. Admirals in dark uniforms stood beside scientists, diplomats, and strategists. Ambassador Alara Quinn had returned, her face drawn but her voice unshaken. "They are gone," she said simply. "The Valorans trusted us. They gave us friendship when no one else would. And now they are ash in the wind. The Council laughs at us because they think we will stay silent." The chamber erupted with arguments. Some feared action, others demanded it. Humanity's fleets were strong, but compared to the countless ships of the Council, they seemed small. To strike would mean open conflict. Yet as the debate raged, something stirred in the heart of every human present. It was not anger alone. It was not only grief. It was something deeper, a refusal to let history repeat itself. Admiral Kalen Voss, a veteran of Earth's defense forces, stood at last. His voice was calm but unyielding. "The galaxy sees us as weak because we are new," he said. "They see our fleets as small because they cannot imagine what lies behind them. For years we have built. For years we have prepared. If the Council believes they can erase entire peoples without consequence, then they will soon learn what humanity does when faced with injustice." The room fell into silence. For decades, humanity had shown the galaxy its softer face, explorers, traders, diplomats eager to prove their place among the stars. But behind that smile, Earth had not forgotten the lessons of its past. They had prepared fleets, not for conquest, but for survival. And survival meant readiness. Now that readiness would be tested. Meanwhile, survivors of the Valoran massacre fled through dark space. A few ships, carrying thousands at most, escaped the destruction. They sent distress calls into the void, but most went unanswered. No species dared to take them in. To harbor the Valorans meant standing against the Council, and that was a death sentence. But one signal reached Earth. A single Valoran refugee ship, its engines failing, appeared near the edge of the Sol system. The refugees were weak, their voices trembling with despair. They did not ask for revenge. They only asked for shelter. And Earth answered. Human ships moved swiftly, guiding the damaged vessel into safe orbit. Medical teams rushed aboard, carrying the wounded and comforting the lost. For the first time since the purge began, the Valorans found hands that did not strike them but lifted them up. Ambassador Quinn stood among them, watching their tear-stained faces. She placed her hand on the shoulder of a Valoran child and whispered, "You are safe now. You are not alone." The child looked up with wide, shimmering eyes. A faint light returned to them, fragile but alive. Back in the depths of space, the Council celebrated its victory. They believed the galaxy had accepted their judgment. They believed the humans would stay quiet, as all others had. But deep within the Sol system, the forges of Earth burned bright. Warships that had never before left their docks hummed with new power. Crews drilled in silence, their movements sharp with discipline. Commanders studied maps of the stars marking the strongholds of the Council. The galaxy thought humanity was powerless. The galaxy thought humanity was young. But humanity had not been idle. The silence of Earth was not weakness. It was preparation. And in that silence, a storm was gathering. The galaxy waited. In the weeks after the Valoran purge, stars burned on as if nothing had changed. Trade routes remained busy. Council ships moved across systems and broadcasts carried the same calm messages of order. But beneath that quiet surface, unease spread like a shadow. Every species had seen the flames of Seralith. Every world had heard the cries of the Valorans. They all knew the Council had turned against its own allies. Yet none dared to speak. Fear was stronger than pity. To challenge the Council meant destruction, and no people wished to be next except the humans. On Earth, the mood was heavy. In every city, screens showed the images of ruined Valoran cities. Markets, temples, and gardens that once glowed with crystal light were now ash. The sight burned into human hearts. It was not just tragedy, it was betrayal. People gathered in plazas and homes, speaking in hushed tones. They remembered history, times when small nations had been crushed by greater powers. Many had ancestors who carried those scars. Humanity had sworn to never let such darkness rule them again, and now across the stars that darkness returned under the banner of the Council. Still, Earth was silent. No broadcasts of war were made. No threats were spoken. To the galaxy, it looked as if humans were like the others, afraid, unwilling to risk their place. But inside the Sol system, the silence was only a mask. Deep beneath the oceans of Europa, in research stations carved from ice, scientists worked in secret. Massive reactors hummed, powering new engines designed for long-range strikes. In the shipyards of Luna, great shadows took shape. Warships of steel and light, their frames hidden from outside view. Crews were trained under strict silence, their families told nothing of where they had gone. The preparations stretched across the system. Mars produced weapons. Titan built drones. Earth itself prepared its fleets. It was not rushed. It was not chaotic. Every move was measured, every resource accounted for. Humanity had planned for this long before the Valoran tragedy. They had always known the day would come when words would no longer protect them. Admiral Kalen Voss stood at the heart of it. From the command center in Geneva, he studied holographic maps of Council space. His weathered face remained calm, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. "They underestimate us," he said to his officers. "That is their greatest mistake. They believe our silence means fear, but silence can also mean patience, and patience can sharpen the blade." The officers nodded. Each carried the same weight in their hearts. They had seen the refugee ship that limped into the Sol system, carrying broken survivors. They had spoken with the Valorans who trembled at the memory of fire raining from the skies. That memory had turned sorrow into resolve. In the refugee shelters on Earth, the Valoran survivors began to heal. They were given new homes, clean air, and the comfort of human kindness. Doctors treated their wounds, while teachers brought Valoran children into human schools. At first, the Valorans could not believe it. They feared betrayal once more. But as days passed, they saw something different. Humanity did not look at them as burdens. They looked at them as family. Ambassador Alara Quinn often visited the shelters. She walked among the survivors, listening to their stories. One evening, she found herself sitting beside an elderly Valoran artist. His hands trembled as he held a piece of crystal, trying to carve a song into its surface. "I thought our voices would vanish forever," he whispered. "But your people hear us still." Alara placed her hand gently on his. The Council wanted your voices gone. But Earth remembers, and when Earth remembers, it does not forget. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Council believed itself safe. Its admirals laughed at the thought of human resistance. They are newcomers, one declared during a strategy session. They have no fleets to rival ours. Their worlds are still learning to grow food in the stars. They will not act. They cannot act, the High Speaker agreed. To the Council, Earth's silence was proof of submission. They assumed humanity would blend back into the chorus of obedience, too small to make a difference. Yet in quiet corners of the galaxy, not all shared that view. Traders who had visited Sol whispered rumors of hidden fleets. Scouts reported strange signals near Neptune's orbit, and refugees, those who had found safety on Earth, spoke of human compassion that burned brighter than any weapon. Some began to wonder, was Earth truly silent, or was it waiting? Within the Sol system, Admiral Voss gathered his senior staff in a secure chamber. Holographic stars shimmered around them, showing Council strongholds, trade routes, and supply lines. "We cannot fight them head-on," Voss said. "Their fleets outnumber us 20-1. But numbers are not everything. We know their weaknesses. We know their pride blinds them. And we have built tools they do not even imagine." He turned to his officers, his voice steady. "Our goal is not conquest. Our goal is justice for the Valorans. For every world silenced by fear, we will strike where they are strongest, so the galaxy will see they are not invincible. We will give the oppressed a reason to hope." His words carried weight. They were not shouted, not decorated with promises. They were simple, and because they were simple, they were powerful. In the weeks that followed, Earth's fleets prepared for their first moves. Ships vanished into the dark, training in deep silence. Pilots drilled endlessly, learning to fight as one mind. Engineers perfected weapons designed not to overwhelm with power, but to confuse, to outthink, to surprise. Among the crews, whispers spread. Some were afraid, others eager. But all knew one truth: they were about to do what no one else dared. A storm was gathering. Back on Earth, ordinary people went about their days under the mask of peace. Farmers tended their fields. Children played in parks. Artists painted and sang. To an outsider, life seemed normal, but behind every door, hearts carried the same fire. Humanity was not a warlike race, not anymore. They had learned peace. But when peace was betrayed, when friends were destroyed, then humans remembered their oldest lesson: survival demands courage. In the council chambers, the High Speaker addressed his delegates again. "The Valoran matter is closed," he said coldly. "The galaxy is stable. Let no one question our order." Applause filled the chamber, hollow and fearful. Delegates nodded, even as unease gnawed at them. And yet, somewhere in the back rows, whispers began. Whispers of Earth, whispers of warships unseen, whispers of silence that was not surrender. But the waiting breath before thunder, the council ignored them. But the stars did not. For in the dark beyond Sol, human warships waited, engines quiet, crews ready. They did not sing songs of conquest. They did not chant of glory. They stood in silence, hearts steady, eyes fixed on the horizon. The storm had not yet broken, but it was coming. The storm finally broke. For weeks, the fleets of Earth had waited in silence, hidden in the shadows of distant moons and drifting clouds of dust. Their engines were quiet, their signals masked. To the galaxy, they were invisible. But to the humans aboard, every second was filled with tension. They trained, checked systems, and prepared for the order that would change everything. That order came in the voice of Admiral Kalen Voss. His words were calm, spoken across secure channels. "It is time." The first target was not a grand fortress. It was a supply hub in the Avaran Belt, a quiet system used by the Council to store fuel and transport goods. Protected by a modest fleet, the hub was considered untouchable. No species had ever dared to strike a Council supply line, but humanity did not think like the Council. A small group of human warships emerged from slipspace, their sleek forms gliding into real space without a sound. To the Council patrols, the sudden appearance was a shock. Their sensors struggled to lock on, confused by the strange signatures of human engines. Before they could react, the humans moved. Guided by years of secret planning, Earth's fleet struck with precision. Drones swarmed out like flocks of birds, weaving patterns that made enemy sensors falter. Missiles did not fall in straight lines but curved in unpredictable arcs, hitting weak points no one else would have targeted. The Council ships tried to regroup, but every formation broke apart under the strange rhythm of human attack. Where other species fought with rigid structure, humans adapted. They shifted like water flowing around their enemy, striking where least expected. Within an hour, the hub was silent. The Council fleet was gone, their supply lines cut, and then the humans disappeared again. Their warships slipped back into the void, leaving only wreckage and whispers. News spread faster than light. Traders carried the story to every corner of the galaxy. The Council had been struck. Not by rebels, not by pirates, but by humans. For the first time in generations, the Council had been made to bleed. Some dismissed it as a rumor. Others laughed it off, saying the Council had allowed it to happen. But those who had seen the wreckage knew the truth. Humanity had done the impossible. On worlds across the galaxy, oppressed races lifted their heads. In quiet corners, voices whispered, "If the humans can fight, maybe so can we." The Council, however, was not amused. In the chambers of power, admirals shouted, demanding explanations. How had a small fleet achieved such a strike? How had their mighty defenses fallen so quickly? The High Speaker silenced them with a cold glare. Do not fear them. They are only humans. Their courage will fade once we show our strength. But deep in his many eyes, a shadow of doubt flickered. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Voss reviewed the battle reports with his officers. The room was silent except for the hum of holographic displays. They never saw it coming, one captain said with quiet pride. They won't underestimate us again, Voss replied. His voice was steady, but he knew the truth. The Council would respond. The first strike had shaken them, but it had also drawn their attention. Now humanity would face the storm. Ambassador Alara Quinn joined the meeting, her presence sharp as always. The galaxy is watching, she said. They are afraid, but they are also listening. Our actions must show more than strength. They must show purpose. Every strike must remind the galaxy why we fight. For the Valorans, one officer whispered. For justice, another added. Voss nodded. For both. And for every species that the Council silenced. The next target was chosen carefully. A fortress world near the rim, where the Council trained new fleets. To attack it directly would be madness. But humanity did not plan a direct attack. Under the cover of a passing comet, human warships drifted close, their engines low. Drones disguised as space debris floated outward, attaching themselves to Council stations. These drones did not explode. Instead, they whispered, feeding false signals into the enemy's sensors. To the Council, the sky seemed empty. To the humans, every shadow was a weapon. When the strike came, it was sudden. Missiles fell not from above, but from beneath, hidden by the comet's tail. Council ships scrambled, firing wildly into empty space, chasing ghosts on their sensors. Meanwhile, human fighters darted through the chaos, striking supply depots and command centers. The fortress world burned with confusion. And then, as quickly as they came, the humans vanished once more. Word of the second strike spread even faster than the first. This time no one could deny it. Humanity was not only capable of fighting the Council, they were winning. In markets and spaceports, whispers grew louder. The humans do not fight like others, aliens said. They do not play by the Council's rules. They fight to win. For many, those whispers became hope. The Council responded with fury. Entire fleets were dispatched to hunt the humans. Patrols doubled, checkpoints grew stricter. Any ship suspected of aiding Earth was seized. But the harder the Council pushed, the more fear they spread among their own allies. And still, the humans remained unseen. Admiral Voss watched the reports with calm eyes. They are chasing shadows, he said. Good. Let them exhaust themselves. Every wasted movement is a victory for us. In the refugee shelters, the Valorans watched the news with wide eyes. Children who had once wept in silence now smiled faintly when they heard of human victories. Elders who had lost hope whispered prayers of thanks. One Valoran elder spoke to Ambassador Quinn, his voice soft. We never believed anyone would stand for us. But your people fight not for power, but for remembrance. You fight so that we are not forgotten. Ilara's heart tightened. She thought of the countless lives already lost, the cities reduced to dust, and she thought of the fleets of Earth standing against the impossible. We fight, she said simply, because silence is the same as surrender. and Earth will not surrender. The council gathered again, its chamber filled with unease. Delegates shouted, demanding the humans be crushed before their courage spread. The High Speaker raised his voice above them. They are bold, he admitted, but they are still only one world. We are the council. We will remind them of their place. But as his words echoed through the chamber, some delegates looked away. For the first time, they doubted. For the first time, they wondered if the council was as strong as it claimed. In the dark between stars, humanity prepared its next strike. Crews moved with quiet determination, their faces lit by the glow of instruments. Pilots checked their fighters, engineers tested weapons, and commanders studied maps of enemy space. They knew the risks. They knew the council was vast and powerful, but they also knew something greater. The galaxy had seen them now. The illusion of council invincibility was broken. Every strike was more than a victory. It was a message. The message was simple. Humanity would not be silent. Humanity would not bow. And humanity was coming. The galaxy was no longer silent. Whispers had turned into voices, and voices into cautious hope. Across distant systems, small races that had long bowed their heads began to lift them. The council, once seen as untouchable, now carried cracks in its armor. And the cracks had been made by humans. Every strike, every sudden victory, spread the same message. The council was not invincible. In the command halls of Earth, Admiral Kalen Voss stood before his officers. Holographic stars shimmered around them, marking dozens of possible targets. Some were strongholds, some were shipyards, others were places the council believed unbreakable. The galaxy is watching, Voss said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Every move we make now shapes not only our future, but theirs. This war is not only ours. It belongs to every race who fears the council's power. We fight for them too. Ambassador Alara Quinn stood nearby, her hands clasped behind her back. She nodded. We must strike carefully, but we must strike boldly. The galaxy must see the truth. Earth does not fight for conquest. Earth fights for justice. The room fell into silence, filled with steady resolve. The next target was daring, a massive shipyard orbiting the world of Taraxis. It was here that the council built its largest warships, vessels so huge they could blot out the stars. Entire fleets were assembled there, guarded by countless patrols. To strike Taraxis was madness, but humans did not fight with madness. They fought with imagination. When the human fleet arrived, they did not announce themselves with a grand charge. They came in shadows. Warships slipped between debris fields, hiding among shattered asteroids. Drones disguised as cargo pods drifted close to the shipyard, their signals masked to look harmless. For hours, the council saw nothing unusual. Then at once, the silence broke. The disguised drones lit up, releasing waves of interference that blinded enemy sensors. Human ships emerged like ghosts, striking with perfect timing. Missiles tore through fuel depots, igniting explosions that spread like fire across the station. Fighters darted into the chaos, targeting command nodes and defense towers. The council's massive ships tried to respond, but they were too slow. The humans struck from angles they never expected, moving with a rhythm no algorithm could predict. Within minutes, the pride of Taraxis was burning. The galaxy watched in shock as news of the attack spread. Images of flames rising from the council's greatest shipyard filled the networks. Billions saw the once mighty fortress fall in hours, and across oppressed worlds hope grew stronger. But the fight was not only in space. It was in the hearts of the people. On the Valoran refugee ships now sheltered on Earth, survivors gathered to listen to human broadcasts. They heard the calm voice of Admiral Voss speaking not in anger but in steady truth. "We do not fight for power," he said. "We fight for those who were silenced. We fight for those who believed no one would stand for them." The council built its strength on fear, but fear is breaking, and when fear breaks, freedom rises. The Valorans wept, not with sorrow but with gratitude. For the first time since the fall of Seralith, they believed their voices might live again. The council, however, was furious. In the chambers of power, admirals shouted and demanded stronger measures. Fleets were ordered to hunt humans with no rest. Colonies suspected of helping Earth were punished, yet the harder they struck, the more doubt spread among their own people. Many species began to question the council's decisions. If humans could defy them, why not others? Humanity's tactics grew bolder. On one mission, human warships slipped into a system under heavy guard. Instead of attacking, they hacked into the Council's communication network, broadcasting messages of resistance across dozens of worlds. Entire populations heard the truth, that the Council had betrayed its allies, that the Valorans had been massacred, and that Earth stood against such crimes. The Council tried to silence the broadcasts, but it was too late. Seeds of rebellion had been planted. On another mission, human ships disabled a fleet without destroying it. With clever use of drones and electronic warfare, they forced enemy vessels to drift powerless in space, unable to fight. When the crews were rescued by neutral species, they carried stories of human skill that spread even faster than fire. In every strike, humanity's reputation grew. They were no longer seen as newcomers. They were seen as something the galaxy had never faced before. A race that combined compassion with cunning, courage with creativity. The Council had ruled for centuries with rigid traditions. Battles followed predictable patterns, strategies that never changed. Humanity broke every pattern, rewrote every rule, and the galaxy began to cheer them for it. Still, Admiral Voss knew victory would not come easily. At one meeting, he studied a map of Council space marked with glowing red lines. "Every strike we make weakens them," he said. "But they are vast and we are few. We cannot win by numbers. We must win by showing the galaxy a choice, fear or freedom." Ambassador Quinn added, "Already species whisper of rebellion. Some wait for proof that the Council can fall. We must give them that proof, and if we fail?" one captain asked quietly. Voss looked at him with steady eyes. "Then humanity will fall standing, not kneeling, and that will be enough to light the way for others." The room fell silent again, filled not with fear but with resolve. The next great strike came at the world of Storym, a planet known for its Council fortress that no enemy had ever breached. Generations had believed it untouchable, but when human warships appeared in its skies, they did not fight with overwhelming force. They fought with creativity. They used drones to mimic entire fleets, tricking the defenders into chasing phantoms across the stars. They disrupted power grids with precision, leaving the fortress blind. Then in the heart of the chaos, small human strike teams landed. They disabled shield generators, allowing human ships to fire directly at the fortress. In less than a day, the unbreakable fortress of Storym was broken. The galaxy roared. Across distant worlds, oppressed peoples gathered in secret, whispering the same words. "The humans fight for us. The humans show us we are not alone. The Council can be defeated." For the first time in living memory, the Council's power was not only feared, it was doubted. On Earth, the news was received with solemn pride. Crowds filled the streets, not celebrating war, but honoring the fallen Valorans and the courage of those who fought for them. Children carried Valoran symbols alongside human flags. Songs were sung in both languages. It was not only a war now, it was a movement. Ambassador Quinn looked out at the crowds, her voice soft. "This is what justice looks like. Not conquest, not destruction, but a people standing together, refusing to bow." The Council prepared its greatest response. Fleets gathered in massive numbers, forming an armada unlike any the galaxy had seen in centuries. "They will strike at the heart of Earth," the High Speaker declared, "and when we burn their world, the galaxy will remember who rules." But even as he spoke, unease grew in the chamber. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, their thoughts haunted by human victories. For the first time, many wondered if the Council's armada would truly be enough. Far from the Council chambers, in the quiet dark of space, humanity prepared as well. Admiral Voss stood aboard his flagship, gazing at the stars. Around him, fleets of human warships shimmered with quiet strength. Their crews were ready. Their hearts were steady. He knew the next battle would decide everything. The Council believed numbers alone would crush Earth. But humanity had already shown the galaxy a greater truth. Justice was stronger than fear, and justice was unfolding.